Check it out now. No doubt now.
Thursday morning, September 27th, 2018, the Beating the Book podcast, Megapod, Week 4 National Football League. It's Gil Alexander. As always, the show brought to you by the folks over at thescorex.com, TheScorex.com. If you've been listening to this podcast for years, you know that secret football stock market thing I've been mentioning, coolest thing I do in handicapping. Well, it is finally here for everybody, and you can now set up a pool of your own with you and your friends. Go to thescorex.com, TheScorex.com, and download for iOS or Android. It's 100% free to start a league with you and your friends. Also, when you sign up, you're entered into the ScoreX main league and can win $5,000 for being the top trader for this upcoming season. The sooner you sign up, the more chances you have to build your bankroll and win, because people are already up there building their bankroll. So get in on it now. And for everybody listening, if you enter the promo code GIL, that's GIL with 2 L's, on sign up, and you're the top Beating the Book score extra at the end of the regular season, we'll have you on the Megapod for Wild Card Week to discuss your NFL trading success. You can talk schmack with me, Marco, and Ace. We look forward to that. Again, it's thescorex.com to find all the download links. Check it out. On the show today, as always, the pillars on my right. From Wager Talk, Marco D'Angelo. Good morning, Marco.
Good morning, Gil. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. People should know that off air, before we actually press record on the show, we had a very spirited political discussion.
You and Ace were having a spirited discussion.
Marco's just hoping we could make, handicapping great again.
Oh, God. Now you know where Ace stood on all this.
I'm just kidding.
On my left, out of the diaspora, it is Ace. Good morning, Ace. How are you? It should be noted, 0-3 on the podcast season.
Never better, brother. The fact of not pulling off a winner by the end of this week 4, I think I'm in good shape this Sunday.
I just want to point out that being 0-3, just as valuable to listeners as being 3-0, Ace. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And the weird thing is, I'm having a good season. You know, it's different if I was like just getting killed, but I'm actually more doing in the college. I'm not, but in the NFL from preseason, it's just continued. I feel very confident.
By the way, I have a listener who has let me know that he loves all of your never better, all of your strange things that you say, Sprinkle. He misses one, though. He hasn't heard a blah, blah, blah from you yet this year. So he's requesting one of those at some point.
We'll fit it in.
More in the context of, Gil, you can throw us all those stats, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And on the show today, kind enough to join us, and Marco and Ace, if we could be on our best behavior today for once, because a true gentleman is with us on the show. He was kind enough to join us on the show last year, a couple times, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for the first time, and that is my shortcoming, not his. He is known as the king of trends in some places. Playbook.com is his website. He is the winner of more documented top 10 handicapping achievement awards than anyone else. Mark Lawrence. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for being on.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be on, Gil, and in such esteemed company. I'm really looking forward to this, and looking forward to maybe a little bit more of blah, blah, blah from Ace, if you will.
Marco told me before the show, and I find this very hard to believe, that he has his own podcast, which is news to me and everybody, I think. And he said that you're on that show later today. Is that true?
That's correct. It's a podcast week for me, and I really like doing this stuff. In fact, I have my own podcast as well, so really, really love doing it, especially this time of the year with college and pro football going on, and lots of good games to talk about this week.
Lots of good games. Everybody's got a podcast now. Mark, what is your podcast called?
My podcast is a spin-off of, I used to do a television and a radio show, and it was called Mark Lawrence Against the Spread back in the day. When I was a little bit younger and had a few more dollars, we were syndicated in about 38 cities around the country, and we would do live shows and television shows. And when that all ended, I rolled it over into Mark Lawrence Against the Spread podcast. So that's what we're doing these days. Okay.
And Marco, allegedly you have a podcast. What is that called, Marco?
It is just simple. It's the Wager Talk podcast. We talk about wagering on sports. Very simple.
I had no idea.
I need one too, I think.
Dude, you should totally have your own podcast.
The political scene with
That's
VR.
It, with VR. Make America never better again with VR. All right, gentlemen, as always, we do this in reverse order. Let's start with the Monday night game. Monday night, by the way, these are 3 really good primetime games. Monday night, Kansas City at Denver. The undefeated Chiefs 4.5-point favorites as we do this Thursday morning. 4.5-point favorites now at Denver. What can you say about the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes just getting it done in big ways on the offensive side of the ball? On defense, well, not so much exactly on defense. They've given up over a whole bunch of yards, 800 plus through the first two games, and that trend continued through week 3. But you do wonder how much of that is because the opposing offense is in catch-up mode. But Patrick Mahomes last week in the Chiefs' victory, 24 of 38 for 314, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He has 13 touchdown passes without a pick this year. That's a record to start a season, first 3 weeks of a season. Peyton Manning once had 12 touchdowns and no picks. Chiefs are the third team to score at least 38 points in each of their first 3 games, joining the 2007 Patriots and the 1967 Baltimore Colts, which Joe Willie Namath ended up upsetting. Broncos were flagged 13 times for 120 yards against the Ravens. They got to clean that up, but it's a division game, Mark. It's at Denver. It's prime time. The Chiefs certainly aren't going to go 16-0. Is this a spot where they could fall not only against the spread, but maybe outright?
This might be one of my favorite games of the week this weekend, Gil, taking a look at the Broncos and Kansas City here. You've got what I feel is the best home dog in the National Football League in the Denver Broncos on one side of the coin. The other side of the football comes the hottest team in the NFL playing the worst defense in the NFL. If you take a look at what Kansas City has done here of late, go back in their last game, if you will. When they won the football game, allowed 27 points and 406 yards in the contest. That was their best defensive effort of the season thus far. I'm saying the best defensive effort they've had. On the other side of the coin, you're taking a look at the Denver Broncos, who I talked about being a home dog. When they've been a home underdog and they've coming off of a win the previous game, this is a pretty neat little number here. They're 19-10-1 to the spread. 18 straight-up victories in those 19 covers here. So when they're in this role, they're going to cash this ticket. They usually win the football game. And I'm also looking at the quarterback side of the situation here. Patrick Mahomes, the hottest quarterback in the NFL, garnering all the headlines week after week after week. On the other side is Case Keenum, the quarterback that really nobody wanted. He took Minnesota almost to the promised land last year. He signed with Denver as a free agent in the offseason to solidify their quarterback situation. Looking inside his numbers, this is the best role that Case Keenum is in coming into this game. In his career, he's been in 6 football games, taking on opponents that are coming off 3 consecutive wins in a row. He's 5-1 straight up and 6-0 to the spread in these games. I like the home dog with the better defense here. I think Denver will be a top 5 ranked defense by season end. I'll play the Broncos plus the points, and if they win the game, I will not be surprised.
I am all over that as well. Marco, if I know you, Mr. Situation, there is no bigger situation than this one right here. Prime time, home dog against the team that's getting all the hype. If I know you, you're all over Denver as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at this game, and, no question, Pat Mahomes, you can't say anything bad about him. I mean, the guy's been sensational, 13 touchdown passes, no interceptions. But come on, guys, it's the Chargers. It's the Steelers, who I've been preaching all year how bad the defense is, and then San Francisco. They don't have a great defense, and then they lost Jimmy G during the game. Now they go on the road, hostile environment, playing in Denver on a Monday night. You give me the better defense, getting points. I got to go with Denver. This is just, it's almost too automatic, Gil, but that's where I got to go with this one. Case Keenum, he hasn't lit the world on fire yet, but, he hasn't been total trash either. The first game, they had 3 turnovers in that game against Seattle and made the game look closer than it was. But let's see what happens this week. They had plenty of opportunities last week in Baltimore. Let's see if they can finish drives this week against this Kansas City defense that hasn't stopped anybody yet. They've just outscored everybody. Let's see when they get some resistance. I'll go with Denver for my play on Monday night.
Ace, can we make it the full 4 here on the Broncos?
Yeah, I'm sorry. All this Mahomes nonsense is really out of hand. We're 3 weeks into a season, and like I was telling Marco, and you weren't there, but I was like, I just can't believe all the fanboys that are in love with him. I mean, since preseason, his dick's grown 2 inches from everyone hanging on it. If he continues to play like this,
there's a gentleman on the show.
He's going to have a 17-inch cock by the playoffs.
I asked you nicely.
If he continues, I'm sorry. They haven't turned the ball over. That's where they're lucky. And if you look at this Kansas City team, here's the bottom line. Even with Alex Smith, they were 73%. They went 38-14 in games he didn't throw an interception. When he threw one interception, they only won 48% of those games. When he threw more than one interception, they only won 33% of those games. So what they've been able to do so far is avoid turnovers. I don't think that's going to be as easy to do against this Denver team. Personally, I thought the wrong team's favored. Prior to the season starting, just 3 weeks ago, they put Game of the Year lines out like always. This game was a pick'em. That's what the line was. And the look ahead was 3, and now we're looking at 4.5. So 4.5 adjustment in 3 weeks from an unproven quarterback that's done it against pathetic defenses and a team, when you look at as a whole, that defense has a lot of holes. I think Denver's going to be able to exploit it. Again, Denver's not. Anytime you're using a journeyman as your guy because he had a great last season, it's not the classic situation you want to be in as a team. More you want to be in that Kansas City situation where you have a young quarterback that's going to be your franchise. Denver don't have that. They don't have great skill position players either. But what they do have is a decent defense, and you're at home on Monday night and catching 4.5 points, I just don't see it. I love Denver in this spot. I think the wrong team's favored, so I'm sprinkling on the money line. And what I also can pass along is that the accounts that I provide, my guys just bet under 55.5 last night. They didn't come back today and go under 55, which is available, but they did go under 55.5. It looks legit. I think public will probably come in over in this one the way the Kansas City's been scoring. So books will probably need that side like they do in most primetime games. I agree with both. I like Denver. I like the under. And I'm sprinkling the money line as well. Forget this Kansas City and this Mahomes nonsense. Put it to bed after this week.
Sprinkle.
Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me, man. Sprinkle me, man.
People should know that.
Too early.
People should know that we dance when the sprinkle song comes on. Marco puts on
Indeed.
puts on a clock around his neck and starts dancing with his arms folded. Ace, I thought we had a conversation. I thought we had an understanding. We weren't gonna, because Mark is here, so I thought we were gonna
I'm sorry. I know. I was gonna say, Mr. Lawrence, please press mute and give me 30 seconds. I just can't keep this inside anymore.
Oh my God, so embarrassing.
They're just hanging on it, those fanboys. They can't let go of it.
Hey, Marco, if I had to pick a game to start with you on, and I could just craft the game myself, this would be it. Baltimore at Pittsburgh on Sunday night. This we've done this podcast now. This is our 8th year doing this podcast. And for most of those years, this was the best rivalry in football. Baltimore-Pittsburgh. If it was at Pittsburgh, it's a 3-point spread in favor of the home Steelers. If it was at Baltimore, it would be 3 points in favor of the home Ravens. It's 3 in favor of the Steelers here once again. Not quite the rivalry that it once was. By the way, there's some 3.5s because it's 3 with extra juice and 3.5 with reduced juice. So it is leaning more towards the Pittsburgh side on the 3 with extra juice. But Pittsburgh coming off a win, their first win of the season. They're 1-1-1, Marco. Their first win on Monday night against the Bucks. They went out to a huge lead on the strength of 3 Ryan Fitzpatrick picks in the first half, and then the Bucks came storming back. 30-27, the Steelers ended up winning it. Here they are against Baltimore. Baltimore's 2-1, and pretty much what you expect from the Ravens. Some performances good, others kind of questionable. The Ravens one loss though on a Thursday night, so you kind of throw that aside as a strange situation for them. How do you feel about this? You know these teams better than anybody.
No, we've been dead on with them so far this season. 3-0 going with or against or taking the total. So let's try to make that 4-0. And Gil, you alluded to the fact that this was one of the best rivalries. Not only was it one of the best rivalries, still one of the best rivalries, but what it was these were absolute wars. I mean, they were bloodbaths. These two teams genuinely don't like each other. The hitting in the games were tremendous. I mean, you'd have guys going out with concussions and everything else. But I can't confirm this, but I have talked to the manager at Heinz Field, and there is a big box that was delivered for this game from the NFL, and I am told that they have gotten 22 big pillows for each player. They are going to have a pillow fight, so nobody can hit anybody else. So I'm looking forward to that on Sunday night because, my God, Monday night, just, put flags on the quarterbacks. I mean, what else are you supposed to do? But for this one, I'm not going to go with the game. I haven't decided. I may end up with a side by Sunday, but where I really am is on the total. And you're looking at this total, and the look ahead was 48.5, and now we're sitting at 51 with it. Too much. And this is an over-adjustment because they're looking at Pittsburgh. They're looking at the Kansas City game. Yeah, there was a ton of points scored in that game. Kansas City got off to a 21-0 lead. We told you about the Pittsburgh defense, how bad it is. And then they just kept going back and forth and scoring. Neither team had a defense in that game. And then you look at last week's game against Tampa, there were a lot of big plays that resulted in big scores. And we talk about, well, let's first, the one of the best plays of the game. A 10-yard pass pattern that should have been, like a 15-yard gain. McDonald gives the stiff arm of all time, Gil, and goes 75 yards for a touchdown. Okay, so that's one big chunk play for a touchdown. Then when you talk about turnovers, it depends where they happen. A turnover can kill a drive and cost you points for the total, or it can happen in the wrong end of the field and result in a quick score. Well, if you look at most of the turnovers, Ben threw the interception, threw it, Tampa Bay set up inside the Steeler 50. Short field, they get the touchdown. Fitzpatrick throws the ill-advised pass, the 10-yard interception return for a touchdown. Tampa, a fumble deep in their territory, sets up a Pittsburgh score. So you had a lot of big plays that happened quickly because of turnovers that helped them get there. Remember, this game didn't go over till late in the fourth quarter when Tampa got that late touchdown. And let's also not forget the fact the penalties in this game. Now, penalties are just like turnovers. What kind of penalty is it? If it's holding penalties and bringing back big plays, okay, that hurts the scoring. But that wasn't the case. I made the joke about the pillows early. They were throwing flags for everything that got near the quarterback, and it kept drives alive. It added 15 yards on the end of big plays. You had some pass interference plays. What do you get? Quick scores. There was 235 yards of penalties in that game. This game, I don't see that happening. I look for this game to be an under. The last 7 games between Baltimore and Pittsburgh, 4-2-1 to the under. Now, the one of those two that went over was the last game they played last year. Everybody remembers that game. It was the 39-38 epic game, the reach across the goal line for the touchdown that put the Steelers in the playoffs.
Yeah, yep.
And Baltimore put them, they still could have got into the playoffs. Baltimore only has themselves to blame because, remember, they lost that final week to Cincinnati on that big play at the end of the game. Their own faults. They got nobody to blame. But if you go back to that game and people can say, all right, well, based on that last game and then looking at what's happening this year, this has got to be an over. Well, that last game last year was the first game immediately following the Ryan Shazier injury. Pittsburgh was devastated at that time. Their defense didn't know what to do. Their people were out of position because Shazier was the quarterback of that defense, not to mention the best guy on the field. He had people where they're supposed to be in their assignments, calling the blocking schemes and such. This is under for me. I'm going to go back to the old Steeler wars with pillows, though, and take the under for my play.
Let me just ask you this. Why is Vance McDonald, why are offensive players, like defensive players, if the hand comes anywhere near the face, flag, like if it's in the same zip code, offensive player is allowed to face rape a defensive player, and nothing is ever called. Vance McDonald to the house.
That is the first time we've ever said face rape on the podcast.
Ace has already said worse earlier on this show, so yes.
We're just going right in the tank, man. But you are right. Yes, the offense does get away with a lot more.
We should point out, because we don't oftentimes get to talk about kickers in NFL games, but especially in this day and age of Plinko, where games just come down against the number to the final sequence, kicker's never more important. And if you had to name the Baltimore Ravens MVP over the last 6 seasons, it is emphatically Justin Tucker. Last week, Tucker, pair of 52-yard field goals in the rain. He now has 6 career games with multiple field goals of 50 yards or more, an NFL record. He's also connected on his last 8 attempts from at least 50 yards. And in contrast, here's the Pittsburgh Steelers with Chris Boswell. It is in his head now. He is 1 for 4 on field goals this year. The only one he's made was a 38-yarder. And he's missed 2 extra points already on the season. So maybe that's really the main handicap in this game, a game that's always tightly contested. The kickers, always big nowadays in football, perhaps never more magnified than they are in this contest.
Low-scoring game, defensive battle. But as Marco pointed out, we're looking at a high total, higher than what you'd expect. Take a step back and say, what's the reason for that? Are they really expecting points? I don't think so. I think the reason for the high total is the fact it's a primetime game, Sunday Night Football, and you have 2 teams that have combined to go over the total 5 of 6 games so far this year. With the Steelers, except for week 1, they put up 79 points with Kansas City, 57 with Tampa Bay. Baltimore put up 50 against Buffalo combined, 57 with Cincinnati. That's why you're looking at this high total, and I don't think it's warranted. I agree with Marco. More importantly for me, my guys actually bet it. Yesterday when I had done the video with Marco, they hadn't bet the game yet, and we both agreed we liked the under. And then last night, I wake up this morning and see in the accounts they took the under 51. So obviously Sharp Money agrees with us as well, and why shouldn't they? You look at this Baltimore defense, look what they did last year. Number 1 in takeaways, number 6 in points allowed, one of only 5 teams to pick off more passes than they allowed touchdowns. And then even the Steelers, even without, Shazier in there, they still led the league in sacks. And it's going to be a good defense again, I think, as the season goes on. Just like their offense, this was expected coming into the season. I mean, you have an offensive coordinator that has never called plays at the NFL level. The last time this offensive coordinator called plays was on the sideline for Bowling Green in 2006. Now he's in the NFL, having to do it with an up-tempo style team, running that scheme. It's going to take a little while for everything to click. I still believe the Steelers are a top 3 team. I mean, I could only, off the top of my head, think of 2 teams maybe that are favored over them on a neutral field. If you wanted to bet this game just 3 weeks ago, it was a pick-em. And now all of a sudden, the Steelers were minus 6.5. I'm sorry, 3 weeks ago for this contest, 6.5. Now you could get it at 3 minus some juice. I like the Steelers as well. In fact, it's changing on the screen as we talk. It's now 3 minus 110 in a lot of places. I don't know why all the love for this Baltimore team. I guess 3.5 being a key number. But I like the Steelers here. I like them at home. This week, I really like the primetime games. And you know me, I love primetime. I like the Monday night game, and I actually like the Sunday night game as well with the under and the Steelers. Favored and under on Monday night, baby, on Sunday night.
What a surprise that you like all these games. What a surprise. That never happens. Never.
I love it. I love the primetime this week. They jumped off the page.
Hey, you know what else? This has nothing to do with betting, but Marco, that Steelers game on Monday night, you know what else was bothering me? I've said this on my show a couple times this week. Joe Tessitore and Jason Witten, in very short time, I cannot stand them. They should just let Booger talk the whole time. Joe Tessitore and Jason Witten have no compunction letting us know how they feel about certain off-the-field subjects, and they clearly have taken the Steelers' side in the Le'Veon Bell holdout. They probably harped on it 3 or 4 different times, and I've mentioned this a couple times again. In the middle of that James Conner run, so it was the Steelers' second to last drive, not the drive where they sat on the ball to win it, but the one where they were trying to preserve the 30-27 win when the Bucs stupidly didn't mortar kick it and kicked it through the end zone and the Steelers got the ball at their own 25. They didn't mention that either. And then in the middle of one of James Conner's big runs on that drive, in the middle of it, Tessitore's like, and there's James Conner, who's in only because of Le'Veon Bell's holdout, running down the field. I'm like, are you serious, dude? Like, maybe when the game is stopped? Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there. Mark Lawrence, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Pittsburgh favored by 3, sir.
First of all, I have to agree with you on the Tessitore situation here. I cannot listen to the games at all. I have to turn the volume down, look for radio to hear the play-by-play. He's such an over-embellisher when he calls plays.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, I don't even think he's spot on his calls. I don't know what the love affair with him was, but it's not Monday Night Football like we've come to know and love in the past, that's for sure. That point aside, that little editorial aside, I'm going to go on this football game to the Baltimore Ravens side of the contest. First and foremost, a golden rule for me is always backing NFL underdogs that have the best defense in the league. That's the starting focal point for me. If I can't make a case for the other side to overcome that, I'll go no further. The Baltimore Ravens do bring the league's top-ranked defense into the league. I know it's only been 3 games, but it's still 115 yards a game better than Pittsburgh's defense coming into this contest here. I love the fact Baltimore has this triple revenge chip on their shoulder in this game as well. Pittsburgh's taken them out 3 straight times. And when in analyzing revenge in my database, and especially in the National Football League, revenge isn't as pertinent, I don't feel truthfully, in the National Football League as it is college football. But when looking at it from the NFL slant side of things, the most meaningful revenge of all is triple revenge exact within division games. It's living in the neighborhood with your division opponent, having been taken out 3 times in a row. You don't want it to turn into dominance. And when you have a good team to be able to extract that revenge, then it's all systems go for me. That's what the role Baltimore comes into this contest in. I also see in this game here Pittsburgh coming off that Monday night shootout with Tampa Bay. Not a favorable situation for them to come back and lay points into a division rival in a situation like this. And also, running through the database, if you look in the history of the series here, if you look at the last 16 times that these teams have met, and Pittsburgh has not had a winning record, Pittsburgh is just 5-10-1 to the number in these football games. This is not a vintage Pittsburgh Steeler football team. There's family feud going on right now with the program. Not everybody is on the same page in the same playbook, and I just don't think the cohesiveness is there for this team as well. I have to give Baltimore kudos for what they did in the offseason here, revamping this roster, bringing some players in that can make a difference. Michael Crabtree really helps Joe Flacco on the defensive side of things as well. So bottom line to me here, number 1 defense, taking points in a revenge situation, put me on the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm with you, sir. I am with the Baltimore Ravens. It is a rare week that I like the primetime games, maybe above all the Sunday afternoon games. This might be that week. Some disagreement on that one, some consensus on the Monday night game, but certainly some disagreement amongst the crew here on the Sunday night game. All right, Sunday afternoon, you have your pick of games. Any game. Ace, we start with you, sir.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on me. This has to be a winner, so I got to pull out one of the strongest plays. I'm at unloading, and that's Game 260, the Dallas Cowboys, -3, some spots -120, at least the sharper, smarter places, making you pay more for it because it's the right side. Just as far as point spread alone, value-wise, you're not going to find too many situations where you're getting this many points more than you should. Let's not forget, this Detroit team was a 6-point underdog just 2 weeks ago at San Francisco. Granted, that was with Jimmy G, but still, they were a 6-point underdog against San Francisco. They were a 7-point underdog at home against New England, meaning they would have been about 13 at New England. And now they're in Dallas and only catching 3. Even on a neutral field, I would bet Dallas -3 against them. On a neutral, I think I'm getting the best of it. Now you throw in home field, where I get it. Dallas hasn't had the best home field advantage, blah, blah, blah. That's the only place they won so far this year. I didn't even mean to do that. It's the only place they won. So I don't want to hear they don't have a home field advantage. So far this year they do. Coming off a win like that, what do we know about Detroit? Detroit's one of those teams that teams 500 or above they've only covered 35% of the time. 65%, you just got to fade them against a winning team, and you'll cash 65%. Bottom line, Dallas right now, granted, the record doesn't show a winning team, but I think when the season's over, this will be a winning team. I love Dallas in this spot. Detroit coming off that big Sunday night win, and it's the classic Detroit. After a win like that, you know what you do. You automatically fade them. But the fact now that they're playing this Dallas team, which that running game's starting to get going. You saw against Seattle, 19 rushes, 166 yards. I think they're going to run right through this Detroit defense, keep that offense on the sideline all game. I love Dallas in this spot, given 3 all day. Double-digit win.
Wow.
Give me Dallas. Yeah, but when you really the back against the wall, I need to pull out a win. I had to bring out the big guns for this week. Probably the biggest bet I'm making is Dallas.
You hear Marco breathing heavily into the phone right there? That's see, there was Marco breathing heavily. I am very surprised by your conviction there. Mark Lawrence, your choice of Sunday game, sir.
This being our pick for Sunday, that being the case, my top play of the week would have been the Denver Broncos, but as you know, that was our Monday night preview game, so we'll make this game 1A, if you will, on my list for Sunday's NFL football card. I'm going to go to the New York Giants at home against New Orleans. The Giants catch the Saints, I think, in an opportune role here. The Saints coming off that 5-quarter win, if you will, against the Atlanta Falcons. They played overtime. They had the ball the entire overtime, almost 5 full quarters in the game for the Saints. Now they pick up and go out onto the road, change roles from a road underdog winning a division game, now laying points on the road in a non-division game. The reason I'm calling that out is Drew Brees has struggled in his career in games on the road when he's come off of a division road victory. He's been in this role 5 times in his career. I should say 6 times. He's just 1-5 straight up in this particular role, coming back off of a road division win out onto the road. Now you look at the New York Giants in this football game here. They laid an egg in their season opener at home with Saquon Barkley. You know they want to make amends for that. And inside my database, I look at teams and situations. Situation being Game 4, the New York Giants started the season 0-2, and then they won a football game. Now, what direction are these teams going to go? This is good indicators here that NFL home dogs, coming off a win that started 0-2, they're 18-6-1 to the number in Game 4. That supports the New York Giants here. I'm going to fade New Orleans with the better defensive dog in the New York Giants. I like Eli Manning in this particular role. By the way, as a home underdog, he's been terrific in his career. I'll play the New York Giants plus the points against the Saints.
You won't go broke betting home dogs, that's for sure. Giants in the midst of a horrific 7-game stretch to start the season, a gauntlet. I said before the season they'd be lucky to come out of it 3-4. I have since amended to 2-5. Right now they're 1-2. Mark all over the Giants. Home against the Saints on Sunday as a home dog.
Well, Gil, you look at this one, and I was ready to go with my best bet. You saw how much I talked about the Steeler game in wanting to go with the under. That was going to be my best bet, but we already covered that in detail for the Sunday night game. So I wanted to give the guys another play. And lo and behold, my other play is the same play as Mark. I like the Giants as well. This is a spot where you're going to look at this game. John Q. Public, this is going to be a pros versus Joes game if there ever was one, because the Joes are going to want the Saints. The Saints went up and down the field, and let me tell you guys, that was my big play last week. I got there. I watched every single play of that game. I'm still tired from just watching the game. It was just draining up and down the field. Both teams scored touchdowns. You know, you never got a breather. The only people that were rested in that game were the punters, and they shouldn't even have got a paycheck for that game because I don't know if anybody actually punted in the game. I don't see the Saints being able to play with the same intensity that they had last week in that Atlanta game. They're going to be playing a Giants team that's coming back home, got a win, ugly-looking win. You know, let's face it, they got it against an 0-3 Houston team. But what I did see in that game last week with the Giants, 2 things. One, I know who the best defense is on the field. That's clear cut. You give me points with the underdog at home, I'm going to be there. Second, character. Last week, when the Giants got out to the quick lead and they never looked back, But there was one point in the fourth quarter when Houston made that run and made it a one-possession game. And the Giants that we have seen in the past, mostly in the McAdoo era, the 2 years that he was the coach there, they would have played not to lose instead of playing to win late in that fourth quarter. And what would have ended up happening is they would have gone 3 and out, punted the football, and Houston would have drove down the field and won the game. That didn't happen last week. They stayed aggressive on offense, and instead of playing not to lose, played to win, and they went down and got a score. And that shows me something different that we haven't seen from the Giants in a while. And I think that the coaching staff, you've got to put it all on them. And I like that, bringing the momentum home. And let me tell you, if Eli cannot get offense generated against this defense, he might as well just retire right now. He should pull one of those halftime ones like the Buffalo Bill guy did a couple weeks ago. Just retire at halftime if you don't get offense going against this Saints defense. I like the Giants. I'm calling for the win. How many guys are going to look and say, -3, I'm just pick the winner? And this thing did open up 3.5, Gil. We're seeing some money coming to the Giants, and I can guarantee you that on Wednesday night or Thursday morning when we're taping, it's not the John Q. Public running to the window to bet a Sunday game right now. They're worried about betting a Thursday night game. That's sharp money on the Giants, and that's where I'm at.
How interesting that both you and Mark liked your primetime bets better, but if you had to take a bridesmaid, you fell on the same game and you fell on the same team, the Giants. Eli Manning last week, after me and everybody else just bashing him, 25 of 29 for 297, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He did get sacked 4 times. That should be mentioned because, well, it's Eli after all. But 25 of 29 for 297, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That is just what Eli does. As soon as you're ready to bury him, that happens. Giants 3-point home dogs. Wow, I'm going to sit on the sidelines for that one. I respect your guys. I'm going to sit on the sidelines. If nothing else, what you've done is take people off the Saints. That's for sure. And that is.
Hey, Gil, let me throw this in if I may about that Giants game. Okay?
Please.
You mentioned Eli Manning, and just Eli Manning rings a bell with me. And in his career, when he's been a home underdog, he's 9-4-1 to the number, which are pretty nice numbers. But when that opponent comes in off back-to-back wins, he's 8-1 in the 9 times he's been a home dog in this particular role. So this is the role that Manning shines and the role that Breeze struggles. That's the only note I want to throw in about the 2 quarterbacks.
I knew you would have a number for it. I knew you would. All right, gentlemen, before we get to the Thursday night comments and the final 2 questions, as always, want to let everybody know that support for today's show comes from bookmaker.eu. Bookmaker.eu, an industry leader for close to 30 years now, and pro players consider them a must because they're first to post odds, they take the highest limits, and I cannot stress this point enough, pride themselves on never having kicked out a winning player. That is everything for those who bet in faraway places. Bookmaker is a high-volume sports book best suited for the sophisticated player who understands sports betting. Also caters to large recreational players as well. And their motto at Bookmaker is where the lines originate, because chances are your sports book follows their lines. Also have play-by-play betting, not just talking about in-play, but play-by-play results over at Bookmaker as well. And if you visit right now, bookmaker.eu/Gill, that's bookmaker.eu/GILL. If you go there right now, you can claim an exclusive 100% welcome bonus of up to $300. That's bookmaker.eu/Gill to join and claim your welcome bonus of up to $300. Check it out. All right, before we get to the final 2 questions, gentlemen, Thursday night, tonight, we always want to touch on it real briefly. It is perhaps from a fan standpoint, not perhaps, but I think from a fan standpoint, it is the marquee matchup of the week. It happens to fall on a Thursday, and I caught myself this morning because we're always complaining about the bad Thursday schedule, and then I caught myself today going, man, it's a shame this game's on a Thursday night, right? So I can't have it both ways. That's not allowed. Vikings are 7-point dogs. Vikings coming off a horrific, out-of-the-blue performance at home against what everyone thought to be the dismal Buffalo Bills. They lose outright, almost get shut out. unbelievable historical loss. Meanwhile, the Rams just chug along. Every win's by double digits. They're covering the spread comfortably every time out. But they don't have Aqib Talib here, and it doesn't look like Marcus Peters is going to play either. For the Vikings, they will get Dalvin Cook back tonight in the backfield with Kirk Cousins. But Everson Griffin, their standout defensive lineman, undergoing mental evaluation for incidents from this past weekend where he was threatening to blow up a hotel, was shirtless, jumped out of an ambulance, broke into a teammate's house. You know, the usual Marco weekend, basically. And Everson Griffin went through. Rams favored by a touchdown here. Mark, we start with you. Any play on tonight's game at all?
Tons of value in this game to the Minnesota Vikings, Gil. If you take a look at the number that was sent out before the season began in Las Vegas, the Rams were a 3-point favorite. Now, because they've opened up 3-0, because Minnesota met the suicide pool killers from Buffalo last week and ended up laying an egg in that football contest here. Lots of value to the Minnesota Vikings here. I'm all about value. I'm all about good teams with defenses. And I'll say this other note. Teams in the NFL that have opened up 3-0 and are at home in Game 4 have been absolutely money in the bank, the role the Rams are in, but none of them have been at home on a Thursday for that particular role. Put me on the Vikings here tonight.
Aha, I see the caveat there. I'll tell you how smart I am, Mark. I was smart enough to go away from Minnesota in my survivor pool. I'm like, I'm gonna let everybody else pick Minnesota. While everybody else gets knocked out, I'm gonna survive. Then I picked the Houston Texans, so I was toast also in my Mr. Smart Man over here. I am for one teasing the Rams. I teased them. They're a tease fulcrum for me, so I hope they win it outright anyway. Let's put it that way. Marco, any thoughts on this game tonight? Totals at 48.
Well, the Vikings last week were in the sandwich to the short week with the Rams. If they've got any pride, they show up tonight. You know, I've said it many times, the Rams top to bottom roster is the best in the NFL. Because of the overreaction, if I had to play it, I would lean to Minnesota.
Okay. Ace, any thoughts on tonight?
You can't deny that you're getting line value. I mean, the bottom line is you're getting more points than you should because even as Mark pointed out, prior to the season, it was -3. Prior to losing to Buffalo, Rams were only going to be 5 in this spot, and that's 7. So is a value better? Minnesota automatic. And again, as a value better, you can't worry about short-term results. There's always going to be randomness on a bad call or an injury or something you can't foresee or handicap. But if you keep taking the best of it, if you keep taking teams like last week, Texas A&M against Alabama, where the bookmaker tells you we're making Alabama 5 points more than they should, granted, you're going to make money long term. That doesn't mean that Alabama couldn't have covered against Texas A&M, and it doesn't mean that the Rams can't cover against Minnesota. But if you continue taking bets like the Rams -7 when they should only be about 4.5, you're going to go broke long term. That's the bottom line. So if you're doing this to make money long term, it's obvious. You take Minnesota and you don't even watch it. Win or lose, you got the best of it, and it's going to play out how it's going to play out. For me, I like the value side. I like Minnesota, and I also like the under. I see money coming in on the over, early money, so maybe it's sharp. I disagree with it. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game than what we've seen, especially with the Rams putting up 30-plus 3 straight weeks. I think that's inflated as well. So I like the dog and under.
All right, gentlemen, in your opinion, which of the big favorites is most likely to lose outright in Week 4? Tonight's game, maybe we already have the answer. Rams, 7-point favorites at home against the Minnesota Vikings. On Sunday, Patriots, 7 points, reduced juice. Home favorites against the Miami Dolphins, the undefeated Dolphins. Packers, 10-point favorites at home against the Buffalo Bills. Jacksonville, 7.5-point favorites at home against the Jets. And finally, the Chargers, 10-point favorites, call it 10.5 now, consensus, at home against the Jimmy Garoppolo's San Francisco 49ers. Mark Lawrence, who you got?
Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars. In his career as a favorite in 22 games, he's only won 12 of them straight up. And you're taking a look here at the New York Jets, who is very easy to play down to their level to look past in a football game like this. The Jets got off to that great start, if for no other reason, just because of the list that we have to look at here in the quarterbacks involved here. I'm gonna side and play against Blake Bortles, put the pressure on him again.
I asked this question of Bill Krackomberger and Warren Sharp on a numbers game on VSiN this morning, and Warren Sharp picked this game as well. Also the lowest total by far of all the games that are in play for this. and it's Blake Bortles, for God's sakes.
Blake Bortles or not, it is still one of the best defenses, and they have a lot of my teasers are going to be tied up to Jacksonville this week. I'm going with New England. Nobody in their right mind is going to think that Belichick and Brady could ever lose 3 games in a row. And, boy, are the books going to need New England on teasers? There's going to be teasers galore on Sunday. Miami gets the upset.
All right, so New England, the team that you think of the big favorites, is most likely to lose outright.
I agree with both those gentlemen. I think Miami, they have a confident Miami team going in there against a nervous New England team not to lose 3 in a row.
Had to pick a side in each one, but you were allowed one pass. Mark, what would it be?
What you've got here is Baker Mayfield making his first road start into a real hungry Oakland Raider football team that is not playing good football. I don't think they're on the same page with John Gruden. I think he's trying to establish himself as a coach, and I don't think it's working right now for Oakland. So the bottom line to me, the game I'm staying away from.
Oakland hosting Cleveland. Oakland, 2.5-point favorites, extra juice, Sunday afternoon. Marco, same question. What do you want no part of?
No part of. This one's easy for me, Gil. You look at this, and you got San Francisco Chargers. You got the Chargers laying double digits in a home field that has no home field advantage. And what are the Chargers or what are the 49ers going to bring in this game? Normally, you know me, I like to take the injured team that first game because everybody rallies around, the season's not over. We're going to get it done. Everybody plays at 110% that first game, and they have that big effort. My concern here with San Francisco is because there was such a hype train from the end of last year with Jimmy G, 5-0, and coming into this season and what they were going to do with Jimmy G. People were talking playoffs, which was just pure insanity. What's the reality gut check now? What do we rise up for one game? Are we really going to make a playoff run with Beathard at quarterback? That's my concern. I don't know that you can get that one good effort. I'm not betting my money to find out. I'll be watching and go from there.
Ace.
Yeah, Cleveland, Oakland. I agree with Mark. Listen, when you're the Cleveland Browns, they're 3-0 against the spread, which shows you how critical and key turnovers are, kind of tells you how little control we actually have. How can you back this team, on the road coming off their first win and how long? I don't want to fade them. I don't want to bet them. It's just a bad spot. I could care less.
All right. We've done all we can do. Megapod Week 4, National Football League. Ace from out of the diaspora, a word that he still doesn't know the meaning of. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, as always.
Google it.
And then,
It has something to do with Trump, Ace. That's all I can tell you. Something to do with Trump.
I tried to Google it.
yes, and I'm sorry to subject you to the tail end of our outlandish political discussion. Mark Lawrence from Playbook.com, the winner of more documented top 10 handicapping achievement awards than anyone in the nation. Mark, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time.
And my pleasure, as always. Enjoy the games.
You too. As always, good luck with all your bets this weekend. Thank you so much for listening.
Welcome, everybody, to the MMQB Gambling Podcast. I'm your host. Not really a host, I'm a co-host, but I have to intro, so I'll say host. Jimmy Traina, with my co-hosts, senior editor of MMQB, Gary Gramling, his brother, managing editor of the DRF Sports Forum, Scott Gramling, week 2 in the NFL. I went 2-1-1 in my best bets last week. Gentlemen, how'd you guys do?
3-1 for me, and Gare?
2-2. Even Steven.
We all, look, I mean, you always have to throw the caveats in. We all had the Giants, right? And if they just, what were they, about a foot short of that 2-point conversion, would have covered or would have pushed. We got it at 3.
And this is a gambling podcast, so we got to stick to the lines and all that. But NFL coaches still have no clue about when to go for 2 points. There was no way they should have went for 2 there.
We're so angry about that, Jimmy.
Because if you missed the 2, you're down 5. Jacksonville comes down, kicks a field goal. Now you're down 8. You have to get a touchdown to 2 points. Just kick the extra point. Go down 4. There's 10 minutes left in the game. NFL coaches still clueless with the 2-point.
I would have gone for 2. But I wouldn't have handed the ball to the guy who was out of breath after just running 80 yards or whatever it was for. I know it was an 80-yard touchdown, but the amount of yards he ran to get into the end zone, I don't think you just hand it to the guy in the 2-point conversion. Anyway, cost me from a perfect week, but hey, we're moving on.
So I had winners with the Rams and Bears. Pushed with the Broncos, lost the Giants. What were your picks, Scott?
I had the Rams, Panthers. And as half
Chiefs.
the free world knows, I loved the Chiefs.
And Gary, what did you have last week?
Oh gosh, let's get the Cardinals out of the way and never speak of it again. I had the Panthers and the I lost the Giants too. I had the Panthers as a winner, and who's my other one? That was
Giants.
The Rams. Sorry, yes, the Rams. Yep.
If you go back into the archives, the 2 teams Gary was on in the preseason were Arizona and Detroit. But we'll skip that. We'll get right to the week 2 lines.
I'm jumping off one bandwagon, and it's not the Lions.
All right.
Sticking with the Lions for now.
That's a tease for the show. Speaking of the show, this is the MMQB Gambling Podcast. We're here every Friday. MMQB, though, their feed has podcasts every day of the week, except for Tuesday. You can check them out on themmqb.com, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. So check out all of the NFL podcasts we have on SI.com throughout the week. And I, of course, have the SI Media Podcast every Thursday. This week's guest is Gus Johnson, and it was a very good interview, so check all that out.
They're all very good interviews. You do a great
No,
job.
they're not all good. They're not all good. I rarely come away like, that was really good. Gus was really good, I have to say.
You pull some good guests, Jimmy.
I try.
You pull some good
I
guests,
try.
man.
So
Who
podcasts,
doesn't love talking to this guy?
So podcasts all over SI.com. Gary's on a bunch of them, and probably on all of them talking about the Cardinal Lion NFC title game that he expects this season.
Monday morning, I was just softly weeping about the Cardinals.
All right, week 1 in the books. Week 2 is here, and this is, I think, always the trickiest week of the betting season because
you said that last week, Jimmy.
No. Week 1, you like to lay low to see what the teams are doing.
got it.
Week 2, though, is all about the overreaction to week 1.
The false confidence,
Yes. And you throw out everything you thought before week 1, all based on what you saw last week.
No, we throw out everything that Gary thought before week 1, and the rest of us move on.
I will mention Arizona and Detroit about 5,000 times in the next 40 minutes. All right, let's get it going. Week 2 in the NFL, we started off with the Redskins. Blasted Gary's Arizona Cardinals last week, giving 6 points at home to the Colts. Big total here, 47.5. Gary, I'll let you get it rolling since I keep teasing you about Arizona and Detroit. Washington -6 versus Indy.
Yeah, not crazy about this one. I'm curious to see the game flow here. I mean, Alex Smith is a game flow dependent quarterback. If they have to play from behind at any point, they're going to be in some trouble. I mean, look, the Colts aren't a defensive juggernaut, but you put Andrew Luck out there against what's an interesting but sort of mismatched Redskins defense, I'd say. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts jumped, maybe 10 points in the first quarter type of thing. I could see that scenario. Like I said, I'm not crazy about it, but with the 6-point spread, I'll take the Colts and the points.
And Adrian Peterson, reborn in Washington after week 1. There's an overreaction people I think are going to have. Scott, I'm sorry. What are your thoughts?
I'm glad we're starting with this game. I thought this was the hardest game on the card to pick. I'm not sure which way it'll go. Therefore, I will take the points. Don't love it. It's a game I'm staying away from. I think there's still too much uncertainty because of the amount of turnover for both teams in the offseason, and I do count Andrew Luck as turnover. I know he's been their quarterback for several years, but because he didn't play last year, let's see if he's for. That was kind of a fluky game a little bit to a degree with the Bengals last week. So I'm taking a wait-and-see approach with these two teams, staying away from it. If I had to take it, I'd take the Colts because of the points.
The line here is high with 6, but I thought the Colts were one of the worst teams in football before the season started. On our podcast, which you can find in the archives where we did over-unders for the season, I said under 7.5 even if Andrew Luck is healthy. So I think the Redskins win the game, whether they cover. Like you guys, I don't know about the line. 6 is high, but I don't think the Colts are very good at all. So let's go on to the second game, and it's one of the better games of the week. Carolina, big win against the Cowboys at home last week. They visit the Falcons. Falcons at home giving 5.5, total 44.5. Scott, what do you got?
Love the Falcons. I absolutely love the Falcons in this one. Falcons, this is a head-to-head series that has been dominated by the home team in recent seasons, and you look at the Falcons and what they've done against the Panthers, 8-2 at home in the last 10 between these division rivals. 7 of those 8 victories have been by 7 or more points, so I'm not afraid of laying the points here. That includes victories by 15 and by 12 the last 2 seasons. I know I was all over the Panthers last week, and I was all over the Panthers last week because of the matchup, because the weakness of the Panthers is their secondary. We talked about it on the show last week. Dallas did not have the personnel to hurt the Panthers where they're most weak, which is in the secondary. Atlanta does. Julio Jones, last 6 games against the Panthers, has averaged 137.3 receiving yards. I think this is a case where the Falcons will hurt the weakness of the Panthers, which is the secondary. I think the Falcons look so bad in the Thursday night opener offensively. I think there's going to be some overreaction there to them. And I just think that having the extra 3 days to rest is going to be a key here. Now, I think naysayers might say Deion Jones is out, Keanu Neal is out. The defense is still fast, and I don't think Carolina has the kind of offense that can hurt Atlanta's defense. Atlanta's defense is still solid, not as solid as it was going into the season because they lost those 2 guys, but I love this game. I love the Panthers laying the points, and
the Falcons.
I'm sorry. I love the Falcons laying the points against the Panthers. Thanks for correcting me there. And I just think it's a great pick, and I also do like when it all matches up. Taking in week 2, an 0-1 team going against a 1-0 team, and this matches up here. Falcons are the better team. They perform better at home in recent years against the Panthers. There's just so many reasons to back the Falcons in this one.
Gary?
Yeah, I actually I had the Falcons until Deion Jones went down. I switched over to the Panthers.
So you're gonna say I had the Falcons until I just heard all that. Now I'm switching over.
No. I'm going Carolina here. Those injuries terrify me. Deion Jones and Keanu Neal. I mean, that is essentially the heart of your defense, especially your run defense with the undersized defensive line they have there. Panthers want to run the ball. We'll see. I mean, it was a lot of bells and whistles with the option game in week 1, and once that stuff's on tape, it becomes less effective. But yeah, on top of that, look, I think Matt Ryan is going to be fine. I think Thursday night was an aberration there, but I don't know. I don't know if they're ready to pick it up right now. I think the Falcons, maybe this is one of those games. Panthers grind it out a little bit. Maybe Falcons win by a field goal in the end. I thought the 5.5 point spread was too much for me, though.
I'm right there with you. I think that line is high, 5.5. Evenly matched teams here. Would I bet this game? You'll have to wait for the best bets, but I love getting 5.5 with a good Carolina team. And I'm at the point now where I might bet against the Falcons just based on their offensive coordinator, because Steve Sarkisian is completely lost now in the red zone. He had a year to fix it and didn't fix it, as we saw in the opener against the Eagles.
You guys are going to regret this. I'm just telling you.
No, I didn't say I was betting it.
All right.
I'm just saying.
No, you're going to regret not betting it the way that you should be betting.
Story of my life.
I was just saying, the 2 guys the Falcons have replacing Jones and Neal, I mean, they are incredibly small. They're sub-package all the time now. Panthers want to go big. They want to try and ram it down your throat. So we'll
big.
see.
Yeah.
That's a tall order for Duke Riley and DeMonte Casey, who's a 180-pound strong safety.
All right, next game on the board. I don't know if our producer extraordinaire Harry can play the trumpets. But we have some sad news. The Nathan Peterman era is over in Buffalo. And Josh Allen will get the start.
It might just be on hiatus. I mean, we thought it was over after the first half of the Chargers game last year.
It was over before it started, believe me.
It should have been over after 5 interceptions in the first half last year against the Chargers on the road. Let's be honest.
So Allen gets the start in Buffalo. The Bills are getting 7.5 points from the visiting Chargers as they come across the country after getting spanked by the Chiefs. Total in this one is 43.5. Gary.
Yeah, I'm going Chargers in this one. They were all right when they had to come east last year in those early games. I mean, they. I want to pull it up real quick. Of course.
The one thing about coming, the one thing is, I think that used to be a bigger factor than it is because now, I mean, these guys are on planes that you can't even, or hotels basically. The travel isn't that bad.
Teams do a much better job managing it than they used to do. And I've been to the league office where they build the schedule and they have all these signs all over the room about body clock and stuff like that. They came east. They beat the Giants for their first one last year. They hung with the Patriots. That was my favorite play of the year was Travis Benjamin running a punt into the end zone for a safety, which ended up costing them the cover in that game. And they took Jacksonville to overtime in a game that they botched on the special teams again, because that's what the Chargers do. In the end, look, I like Josh Allen as a prospect. I think he might be a superstar in 5 years. This Bills offense is not functional. They cannot do it. The only way they hang around in this game is something like fluky special teams plays, weird turnovers, stuff like that. Chargers will serve those up, but I'm not betting on that.
The Chargers played so poorly last week, and I mentioned it last week once again. Joey Bosa out. If they were playing a real team, that might concern me, but it is the Buffalo Bills and a rookie quarterback who I don't love as a prospect. But Scott, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I don't like either side of this game. If I had to take it, I would take the Bills. It's just too many points to be laying on the road with a team I don't think is that good. And I won't go back into it. I went into it last week with the Chargers, and a mediocre team laying more than a touchdown on the road against any NFL team. And jury's still out on whether the Bills are an NFL team, but they do qualify as one at the moment. So. Staying away. If I had to take it, I'll take the Bills.
Total here, maybe it's me. Let's know what you guys think. 43.5 seems high for a team like Buffalo, which you don't expect to score many points at all. I mean, yes, I did say Bosa's out, but even how many points are the Bills going to put up this week?
If I had to bet, I'd take the over.
You would?
Yeah, I think it just feels to me like a very mistakey Keystone
Turnovers,
Cops type of games.
Pick six here and there.
And somebody's gonna be dropping punts and stuff like that. It's gonna be an ugly, sloppy game, but not in a defensive battle kind of way. Yeah. I think in a more ineptness kind of way, and that often leads to overs because of a lot of mistakes where you should not be making mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, Allen is boom or bust. I think they score any touchdowns are going to be of the 40 or 50 yard variety, and it's probably going to be a lot of turnovers too.
All right, let's move on to a little division battle here. The Texans, 2-point favorites on the road at Tennessee. What a rough Sunday for about 87 hours in Miami. Total 44.5. Scott.
I'm going with the road favorite here. I am taking the Texans. It just, what a horrible first week for the Titans. I don't want to, I really try and stop myself from overreacting to the first week, but, not a lot of positives to take away from that game. And I just think when you look at the Texans and the kind of upside they have, I feel like, they've had the Titans' number in recent years, 11-3 against the spread in games played against Tennessee since the start of 2011. For those reasons, I'm leaning a little more than slightly toward the Texans here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Texans. I'm going a little bit stronger than the Texans here. Like Scott said, terrible first week for the Titans, terrible summer for the Titans. A new coaching staff in there.
That's a good point.
Their entire defense has been It's not the devastating, it's not the headlines of, torn ACL, all this stuff. They had 4 draft picks. Their first 2 draft picks were both hurt all summer. They can't get on the field. Morgan's banged up. Arakpo's banged up. They are severely running behind on defense with where that defense should be.
And on offense, they lose Delaney Walker last week.
Delaney Walker out. Delaney Walker is I mean,
top weapon.
He's the focal point of that offense. So yeah, they're
Which is a problem, but yeah, you're right.
Yes. They're in trouble here. Bill O'Brien 7-4 against the spread versus division opponents on the road, and 4-0 as a road favorite as the Texans head coach. So I'll go Texans on this one. Nice little bounce back game for Houston as well after a sloppy start in New England.
This is probably the game the game I have the least amount of feel for all week. I think the Texans are better. But, given 2 on the road here, who knows how Tennessee is going to react. Gary's right. Injuries on defense. Delaney Walker out. We'd tell you Houston -2 is the play, but not the game I don't love. This game is very interesting to me. I think it definitely will be one of the more fun games Sunday afternoon. Chiefs with that high-powered offense. And I know Scott's chomping at the bit, but I'm going to drag this out. Keep him waiting. The Chiefs, a juggernaut, visiting the Steelers, who come off that tie with the Browns. Steelers -4.5, big total, 53. I'll tell you right now, I'm betting the over. Scott, we'll let you get it rolling because the Chiefs are your team. Go ahead.
Chiefs are my team. I don't love this spot, though. I really don't like this spot. I feel like back-to-back road games is a tough spot. Since the start of 2009, a Week 2 road team that had to play on the road in Week 1, 6-24 straight up. And the average money line on that was less than +110. So those are, and the average final score, the point differential was 7 points. So the home team won by an average of 7 points in those 30 games. I think this is a Steeler team that is tough at home, and I think it's a tough spot for a young quarterback. So because of that, and you know how much I love the Chiefs, I'm leaning ever so slightly to the Steelers on this
That's got to hurt.
I was gonna say.
You know what? You have to look at it week in and week out, and I do love the Chiefs. I loved them last week. I love them in the division because they dominate the division. But I think this is a very tough spot for them, and I do feel like the Steelers are going to. That was kind of an aberration, that game against the Browns. I feel like the Steelers sort of packed it in after 50 minutes and the bad fumbles at the end and all that. The Steelers should be every bit as good as the Chiefs, and with the home field advantage, it's a tough game. I wouldn't play the game. If I had to, I would go with the Steelers.
Gary?
Yeah, I'm going Steelers. I will say the only thing that gave me pause is the Joe Hayden injury, and I wonder if that sort of limits what the Steelers are going to be able to do defensively. Andy Benoit and I talked about this on the Deep Dive podcast.
What day of the week? Plug it properly.
There you go. It's coming out. No, it already came out.
Today's
Friday.
Yeah.
It's already out.
Check it out.
It's a fast week when you get into the season.
Yeah, it's to beat Mahomes right now, I think we have to do is it's disguise coverages, it's exotic blitzes and stuff like that. That's not what the Chargers do. That's not their defensive profile. That is what the Steelers can do. But with Hayden out, they can't cover. I mean, they can't cover Tyreek Hill.
Sorry, you know how much I love Mahomes. I just love to beat Mahomes. It's so great because. We're already talking about him like that. In his 2 previous NFL starts.
In the larger picture, that's how you beat any young quarterback.
I hear you.
You show him new stuff, it's not the speed of the game that gets to young quarterbacks. It's the new stuff they see that they don't see in the preseason because no one does it there.
I just love the level of respect that he is getting. I don't have my Mahomes jersey yet, but it'll be soon.
No, and I mean, you guys remember last year after Ben threw the 5 picks against Jacksonville, and everyone said Ben's done. Ben was not done. Right. If you didn't follow the rest of the season after that. Look, it's going to be a beautiful day in Pittsburgh. Steelers are they're going to roll up points here. I'm a little bit nervous about the over, though, Jimmy, because what the Steelers have done the last few times they played the Chiefs, they get in those 3 receiver packages. The Chiefs have that sort of small front that they put up, and then the Steelers just ram the run down their throat.
Listen, I think this is going to be up and down points, whether it's running, passing. The -4.5 for the Steelers, I don't have a feel for, but over 53, I think this game's got 37-28, 34. 30 written all over it.
It's the Mahomes factor. Say it, Jimmy. Mahomes factor.
Well, it's not just Mahomes. I mean, the Chiefs have weapons all over the place. I think the Chief defense stinks. I don't think the Steeler defense. Everyone thinks the Steelers have one of the top defenses in the NFL.
No.
I think we're going to see on Sunday that you're going to be able to move the ball on Pittsburgh. I see nothing but points in this game. I don't see many defensive stops in this one. So I like the over big number. And when you have a big number like that, it usually scares off some people. That's when you go over. Just a little tip for you there.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. This game here is very interesting. I'm going to contradict myself when I analyze this game, but the Jets are at home giving 3 points to the Dolphins. The total is 43.5. The reaction to the Jet win on Monday night, to me, is over the top for one reason. Darnold played great. You want to say the Jets have a quarterback, Darnold's the future. I have no problem with that. But then when you come out after the game and you say you knew every play that was coming, well, then you should blow out the team. So let's relax a little bit with how bad they beat the Lions. Having said that, I love the Jets -3. At home, rookie quarterback, crowd's going to be fired up. I don't think the Dolphins are any good. I mean, they beat a bad Titans team at home with, rain delays all over, big deal. You're only laying a field goal at home. That crowd's going to be insane. And the Jet defense is good. I love the Jets -3 in this game, although it's not based off of last week. Like I said, you don't want to go crazy off week 1. So it's not based off blowing out the Lions. And again, take the blowout of the Lions with a grain of salt because the Jets got 5 interceptions claiming they knew every play. So you're supposed to win that game. So I'm all over the Jets here. Scott?
I like the Jets here. I don't love the Jets. I don't like them as much as you here, Jimmy. I just and for the reasons you pointed out, I don't know what to read into that first game. It's almost like once you start hearing we knew the plays, it's like, all right, I guess I have to wait to see if this team really is any good. I do think that they are a field goal better at home than the Dolphins, right. And for that reason.
For Darnold to play the way he did after that pick 6 on the road showed me something. Crowell ran the ball very well. I think he's been an underrated back his whole career. So I do like the offense there.
Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. Interestingly, there are some books, mostly offshore, that will open the line before the Monday night game is played.
Okay.
And it was opening there at Dolphins by 1.5.
Right. I remember. I saw Dolphins -1 initially on that.
Yeah. So, just the line is where it should be.
Yeah.
I think without question.
Yeah, the
but
Dolphins
it's just
are not
kind
a
of
better
interesting.
team than the Jets.
Yeah.
So no, they're not. They're not. Yeah. And I think we can leave it at that, yeah. And that's why I'm leaning Jets. No, I mean But that being said, I don't think anybody here would be shocked if we're sitting here next week and recounting a Jets-Dolphins game that the Dolphins won 24-16.
No.
I'm not saying that's my prediction.
I was going to say, hopefully we won't be doing that. That would be a terrible podcast. I'm leaning Dolphins on this one, and not strongly. I was hoping this line would keep on growing in the Jets' favor. So the 3 is a little bit, that'll make me standoffish. But Adam Gase is my co-pilot in life. Gase is the kind of guy who keeps these designer plays in his back pocket, and if you're going to break any out. This is the game, like we talked about during the preseason. This is the battle for second place in the AFC. Excuse me, AFC East, not the AFC.
Sure, that'd be great if CBS fills it that way.
What a selling point!
It is.
What a selling point.
That's why we're doing a podcast about it next week.
The Bills, the division's so bad. We know the Patriots going to win, and the Bills are so shitty. Here's the game of the week to determine second place.
But these really are in the AFC. These are 2 wild card contenders.
Right.
So if you're Miami, you can steal this game on the road. Look, game and a half lead over the Jets. You're going to get him in Miami later. I think Gase is going to keep some stuff in his back pocket and break it out this week. But like I said, I wish it just crawled to 3.5, 4, 4.5, something like that.
That would be a little much. I like how you say Gase has these plays. His quarterback is still Ryan Tannehill. Just remember that.
It is. I'll just say this. My favorite Gase play was, you remember when they almost upset the Seahawks a couple of years ago early in the season?
Yeah, in Seattle.
I think it was the opener, actually.
It was week 1.
It was. Gase ran this play for Kenny Stills that he had run variations of it over the course of his career. It was literally a play that he probably had in his back pocket for years and was going to break it out at a big moment, and he broke it out. Comes wide open, no one's near Kenny Stills, and he drops the ball.
And
what would have been a game-winning touchdown.
And this would be a big moment in second place in the AFC.
This would. You never forget a game like this.
We've talked too much about Jets Dolphins.
I've already forgotten about it.
All right, here we go. This will be a week 2 overreaction game for sure. The Eagles giving 3 into Tampa Bay. Fitzpatrick has the total in this game and now at 44. Gary Gramley, what's going on here?
I actually, I hated this game. I'm leaning Bucks only because I think Foles is. I think it's part Foles is a pumpkin again. I don't want to overstate that. I think he's still he's fine. He's fine. They just don't have weapons right now. Bucks are better defensively. I know they gave up a lot of points last week in what was relative garbage time against obviously what's a very good offense. I think the Bucks hang around in this one though. As we see, I mean Fitzpatrick is. I'm actually. Some research scientists should create the quarterback playmaker scale, and it's going to be the Rodgers-Peterman scale. On one end you have Rodgers, the other end you have Peterman. These are the guys, the total boom or bust guys. Fitzpatrick obviously leans more Peterman for the most part, but like we saw last week, good Ryan Fitzpatrick, it can put up a ton of points. So I'm leaning Bucks. I'm not crazy about this. I think there's too much volatility on both sides here.
Scott?
I don't know, Gary, how you can say the Eagles don't have weapons in the passing game. Didn't Nelson Aguilar have like 22 catches for 24 yards in the season opener? I mean, it was something. I've never seen a passing game that's 2 yards in a cloud of dust, but that's what it was. I'm leaning slightly to the Eagles here. I just don't believe in the Bucks. I don't know what happened. I can't explain what happened week one, but. Yeah, I normally look. I like road dogs early in the season. I cannot pull the trigger on the Bucks here, and I do think that the extra time, having the extra few days off, does make a difference. And I don't love the Eagles, but that's who I would
If we would have done this podcast 2 weeks ago,
yep,
and you would have seen Eagles -3 at Tampa Bay, you'd be all over it, all over it. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick goes crazy in New Orleans, and it's oh, this could be close. No. Back down to earth for Ryan Fitzpatrick this week. 24-6 Eagles.
So you like the under there, huh?
I don't think the Bucks are going to score. The 48 points last week, you said it perfectly. Cannot be explained.
Correct.
No, listen, Mike Evans is a big-time receiver. Deshaun Jackson. They have weapons but I feel like Gary disrespected the Eagles in his little summation there. Yeah, maybe the offense is this. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. They came out week one. Everyone was all over Atlanta. They came out and won that game. And I don't see them getting tripped up in Tampa Bay against Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's just me. I love this next game, not from a betting standpoint, but just to see what happens since we just talked about the Bucks. We go right into New Orleans. They get back-to-back home games to start the season. Saints giving 8.5 to the undefeated Cleveland Browns. Total here through the roof, 49. Scott, your thoughts on this AFC, NFC battle?
Yeah, I like a big bounce-back game from the Saints. They're the far better team, and Jimmy, I'll kind of play off what you were just saying. If, sitting here, 7 days ago, 8 days ago, and you said week 2 you'd be laying less than double digits with the Saints at home against the Browns. Do you like it? Yeah, I like it a lot. And if you can't explain it from a Buccaneers perspective, you can't explain what happened from a Saints perspective, you can explain that they dropped 40 points on a below-average defense, and the Browns were also below average defense, although Myles Garrett did look good in that swampy wind and rain.
He looked very good.
I like the Saints here. I just think you can't be afraid of the number, and you can't overreact to week 1. It's just not that many points for a team that was considered top 5 going into the season against a team that was considered bottom 5 going into the season. And it's not like the Browns really showed you a ton.
I don't know about the bottom 5. That bandwagon got filled up with the total went to 6.5 for the I think,
from my perspective, they're bottom 5.
Well,
that's all that matters, right, Jimmy? I mean, let's be honest.
That is true. But I do think, like you said, if you saw that line 2 weeks ago, you're salivating basically with the Saints at home, not even giving 10.
Sure,
Gary, what do you got?
Oh, I love the Saints in this one. If you ask the Saints defense as a team, what was the easiest game you had last year? It was when they went to Buffalo and faced Tyrod Taylor. They just said, we're going to keep him in the pocket, make him beat us that way. He couldn't do it. That was of course 47-10, and you know why the Bills got that 10? Nathan Peterman leading the touchdown drive. That was
What, did someone drop a pick and a deflection?
No, everybody left the building.
I was going to say that's what got him the start the following week against Chargers. But this is the thing with the Browns. You kind of wondered, okay, new quarterback Tyrod is getting the start. Are they going to roll out some wacky option type stuff or something creative with Tyrod? They didn't. They had some creative stuff in the passing game, but they built the offense for Baker Mayfield clearly. And now, why don't they play Baker Mayfield? That's another conversation about the questionable decision making of the of the people running the Cleveland Browns. But they don't have an offense that can beat the Saints defense. They're going to play it the same way the Bills played it a year ago, where they're going to try and win the turnover margin by such a great gap that you can get a 6-1 turnover advantage and then tie a team at home. Is Drew Brees going to throw 4 interceptions in this game? I guess that's a possibility, and then I could see the Browns hanging around. But if this line was 18.5, I'd still be intrigued by the Saints.
Bold statement. I'll just say this: I'm gonna go real hardcore X's and O's football analysis here.
Nice.
I will not bet this game. If I had to bet it, I'd bet the Browns only because everybody and their mother, like these two gentlemen, are betting the Saints and love the Saints. Gary's laying 18.5, so that means bet the Browns. All right, let's move on.
Take the Browns in the 18.5.
Yeah. And then take the 8.5 too. Yeah. Everyone in America will bet the Saints on Sunday, so you know what that means. The Rams, coming off their Monday night victory in Oakland, laying 13. This is the biggest line of the week for all the people still in survivor pools after the Saints eliminated most human beings. Rams minus 13 at home against Gary's Super Bowl team, the Arizona Cardinals. The total is 45.5. We'll let Gary start with his Arizona team.
I just want to clarify on this for anyone who's listening for the first time here. Lions were my dark horse Super Bowl team, and I thought the Cardinals were gonna blow away their 4.5 win total. I am kind of rethinking that, but I am going Cardinals. I'm going Cardinals in this one as sticking around. Look, division opponents, Rams coming off the late Monday nighter.
I could see in your face you're struggling to even come up to the reasons why to pick the
I will say, and we're going to talk about the Lions in a little bit, but the Cardinals I thought were the most disappointing team of Week 1. They didn't show up, and that is terrifying with the new coach there and all that. So I fear for my Cardinals win total life there. But division opponents, Rams playing the late Monday game. I think the Cardinals can stick around in this one. That's the nicest thing I can say about them. So that's why I'm taking the 13
I have a feeling if they don't stick around, we'll never hear you pick the Cardinals the rest of the season.
I'm taking the points here, too. I don't have a ton to say on this. I just think it's a lot of points, team coming off the late Monday night game. And I think there's some Week 1 overreaction a little bit to the spread here. I think that when you look at the way these teams, divisional rivals, I just think they're going to play a relatively tight game. Not a 3-point game, but certainly a 7 or 10 point game is too many points.
The Rams are basically put up 50 here, but I'll get to that when we get to best bets. All right, here's one. We'll go right back to Gary's adopted teams this year. Mm-hmm. San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy G, rough Week 1 against the Vikings. -6 at home to the Lions. Total here 47.5. Hopefully the Lions will not be letting Jimmy G know which players are coming. Gary?
I was going to say, Matthew Stafford, that's what it was with the plays. Matthew Stafford has some tells at the line of scrimmage. That's how the Jets caught on there. Let's see if the 49ers
will they fix that this week?
But,
Matt Patricia get his pencil out of his ear and fix the play calls?
Yeah, that pencil on the laminated play sheet will have all the answers.
In all seriousness, 6 is big. 6, a little bit of a large
6 is a
line.
big number. I'm going Detroit in this one. I'm going to tamp down the confidence in my Detroit Lions at this point. But I'm going Detroit in this one. When it comes down to it, 49ers banged up on offense. Jimmy was fine. He was not Jimmy of last year. He's missing a little bit high and wide a little bit. So we'll see. Right side of that line is banged up. Let's see if Marquise Goodwin is back. They're still figuring things out at running back. But I just want to point out, Lions, even though the Jets knew their plays, that was a 17-17 game 5 minutes into the third quarter. It fell apart when they had to start forcing the ball down the field, and then it turned into interceptions, and then it was Matt Castle time, and et cetera. But, I'm going with Lions.
The definition of a silver lining. Scott, what do you got on this game?
I'm taking the Lions as well. I'm don't love it. Kind of like it. I'm sort of in between there. I think it's too many points. I don't think the Lions are as bad as they showed. And I just don't think at this point the 49ers should be favored by that many points. Let's see them, kind of in that role. So, don't love it, kind of like it. I do think the Lions are significantly better than they showed, which I know isn't saying much, but it is saying much when you're playing against 49ers and getting that much points.
Thanks for backing me up, brother.
Yeah, I hesitated to do so, but I got to go with you on that one.
All right, we go to the game of the week now, 425 CBS. Most of the country gets this one. The Jaguars coming off their victory against the Giants at home. They are getting a point from the New England Patriots, total 45.5. I would assume the boys here have plenty to say about this one. Scott, take it away.
I just don't see how, and Jimmy, I'm sort of echoing things you've said in recent weeks, right? Mm-hmm. Until proven otherwise, why would you try to bet against this quarterback-coach combination? And would I be shocked if the Jaguars win this game? No, I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game.
Line's only one.
Line's only one. But, I mean, you just look at what's happened in recent history, and I don't see any reason to believe strongly enough that the Patriots aren't going to find a way to win this game. If you want, some recent history numbers to back it up against AFC South opponents in recent last 21 games against AFC South opponents, they're 21-0.
Wow,
straight up, 14-7 against the spread. Straight up is even more relevant in this one because it's pretty much a pick'em game. I just think that you look at the Patriots, they're better on the road than they are at home, if you can believe that, but it is true. I mean, they're 11-1 straight up, 9-3 against the spread away from home against AFC teams since the start of 16. There's just so many things pointing in that direction, and what's on the field as well. I just feel like they're going to stop the running game, and they're going to put the ball in Bortles' hands. They did it in the AFC title game last year, and the Jaguars could have and in some ways should have won that game. But I think they're going to take their chances with it again, and I think you'll see Bortles, he's not going to have the game of his life, and I think he did in the AFC title game, and they still didn't win it. So for all those reasons, I'm taking the Patriots here.
I wouldn't bet this game. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to enjoy it. I wouldn't bet it. The one thing I would say is I know I did this. I think last week in picking the Giants, I think I underestimated and disrespected the Jaguar defense a little bit. The Jaguar defense is very good.
That was a crummy day out, too, though.
Yeah. But that defense is legit. They played really well. And, this is a good test for them with New England coming in week 2. If they win this game, we know that, they're set up now for the rest of the season. But, again, I will rarely, if ever, bet against the Patriots. So I would stay away from this one. Gary?
I'm going with the Jaguars lean here. I think this is their Super Bowl in week 2 here.
Right.
I just wonder how the sort of, that Patriots inverse offense with the running backs and the tight ends, with all the speed you have at linebacker in Jacksonville, I just don't think it's an ideal matchup. I think the Patriots might be out of weapons, not have enough on the outside to be able to beat this defense. So.
Yeah, they've already been bringing in receivers right after week 1, the Patriots, so they want to get Gronk some help on that offense. This game here, we probably won't spend a ton of time on. Denver -6 at home against the Raiders. Disastrous opener for John Gruden. In Oakland, big line though, 6. Gar, what do you got?
Yeah, I Oakland coming off the late Monday night game and going to the thin air, I think is a rough combination. Obviously, they have plenty of a changeover going on there too. They were a little bit banged up after Monday night, so I'm going Denver here. Not that's tough to have the -5.5 when you're a Case Keenum team, but I'm leaning Denver here.
I'll take the points. Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about it. I think Gary sort of segued in unintentionally there. I'm not laying that many points with Case Keenum in a team that's I'm still trying to figure out really what they have.
Yeah. And the total here is 46, which I think is pretty high, but Denver defense is good. It's an underplay for me, too, with Case Keenum. But, again, we'll be watching Patriots-Jaguars at this time probably. Sunday night, NBC, Cowboys giving a field goal to the Giants. We all picked the Giants last week. Let's see who's going to jump off the bandwagon. We start with Scott.
I'm still on the bandwagon, and I'm really. It's more that I'm still on the anti-Cowboys bandwagon.
Yeah, you did well last week picking the Panthers.
To be quite honest, I just think that right now, the Giants are as good a team, if not better, than the Cowboys. I think Cowboys have serious issues, and again, I normally don't read a lot into what happens in the preseason, but we start to see signs of it, and with that offensive line banged up, I just think that. It's just way too risky to take the Cowboys here. So I am, I like the Giants in this spot. Can't say I love them because there's still but I like the Giants.
Gary?
No, I complete agreement there. I'm going Giants on this one. Like we said, Giants, they can stop the run. They can't rush the passer. They can't necessarily cover for a long time, but it's not a problem when you're facing this Cowboys team.
Here we go again, because I like the Giants too. Like I said, I'm not going to let week one scare me. I think the Giants got did in by a very, very good defense.
Yeah.
The Cowboys don't have a very, very good defense.
Giants aren't good on the offensive line, but the Jaguars are unbelievably good on the defensive line. And
one thing, I thought Eli played well, and the Giants usually do well in Dallas. They don't get scared by going into Dallas, so I like the Giants here. And then the week wraps up Monday night with the Bears of the heartbreaker Sunday night, giving 3 points at home. Games in Chicago. They're giving 3 to the Seahawks. Total here 43.5. Gary.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a lone wolf on this one. I have Seattle in this one. I'm just not buying on the Bears yet. I think they're still working on what they have defensively. Roquan Smith, all of a sudden, they tried to play him for the entire second half last week. It didn't work out so well. Khalil Mack is still being sort of eased in there. I always say Russell Wilson factor with the Seahawks. I mean, yes, they're not talented on offense, but Wilson can put up your 24, 27 points. I'm not buying what the Bears are doing offensively yet. And you saw it, everyone, if you were on Twitter Sunday night after the first quarter, this offense, it's the new age Bears, and then last 3 quarters. I think their last 8 drives
the old age Bears.
It was 4 punts and a turnover on downs. And
yeah, you have new coaches. I think they get a little tight. Lambeau Field, the Rodgers coming back. I will say, I know it's against the law. I hope I don't get arrested if there are any cops. I know it's against the law to say anything negative about Aaron Rodgers this week. If Kyle Fuller knows how to catch, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers lose and the Bears win. To me, that game became about Aaron Rodgers. It was not. That game was about Kyle Fuller losing the game for the Bears. Bears should have won. I love the Bears this week. I think at home, the fans should be fired up. Khalil Mack is there now. Trubisky did not play well in the second half. I agreed. I think, this is a home road thing for me. If they were on the road this week, the Bears, I'd be nervous. I think at home, though, it helps them tremendously. And they should be 1-0 if their DB did not basically give the game away. Scott,
you knew the moment that happened that the game was over.
No doubt about it. Absolutely.
And it's, you're right. I love the Bears here. I really do. And it's also, look, it's as much as I'm down on the Seahawks. And, I threw it out earlier that 6-24 record. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the Chiefs and the Seahawks too are back-to-back road games to start. Not a great road team to begin with. Pete Carroll. 2-11-1 against the spread in September games on the road. So I really do like the Bears a lot here. I think that it's a good matchup for them. I think it's a very weak defense for Seattle, and I think the Bears are going to win this one quite handily.
Now, before we get to our best bets, the one game we did not talk about this week is the Packers, because they're at home with the Vikings going into Lambeau. As of this taping, the Rodgers injury, we don't know if he's playing, not playing. There's no definitive word. I think he's playing. I've had sources tell me he's going to play. I'll just say this. Whether he plays or not, I'm picking the Vikings. Again, the Bears should have won that game last week. I was not impressed with the Packers. I think they're very limited on offense. I don't think their defense is great. I think the Vikings are the real deal. So whether he plays or not, I would bet the Vikings in this game. What do you guys thoughts on this one? We don't know what's going on, but
yeah, I was gonna say if Rodgers plays, I just wouldn't touch the game. I don't know what's going on with him.
If he plays, I don't think he's going to be 100%. I think the Vikings are the better team. I think we talked about in the preseason. I think that I don't know if the Packers are a top 25 NFL team from player number 2 to player number 53.
I agree.
And because of that, I like the Vikings here. I mean, yeah, we have to see what the line is, but I think talking about it now, Vikings.
All right, Gary, how many best bets do you have here in week 2 of the NFL?
So I got 3. I got the Saints. Sometimes it's that easy. I have the Steelers and I have the Texans.
Right, so Saints minus 8.5, Texans minus 2.
Minus 2 at Tennessee, and then Steelers minus, what do we have it at? Minus 4.5. Yeah, minus 4.5 at home against the Chiefs.
So 3 favorites for Gary. Scott, your best bets.
Love the Falcons, and I love the Bears. I would say that those are the ones I'm most confident about.
So Falcons minus 5.5 at home against Carolina, and the Bears minus 3 at home against the Seahawks.
That's correct.
Those are your 2 best bets.
Those are the 2 I'm going with.
I got a slew this week, which is ridiculous for week 2. But I love the Jets minus 3. I love the Jets minus 3 at home against the Dolphins. Eagles minus 3 on the road at Tampa Bay. Sorry, Ryan Fitzpatrick, not happening again. Love the Rams minus 13 against the Cardinals. That's got 38-10 written all over it. And I love the Bears minus the 3 against the Seahawks. So those are our best bets for week 2. And enjoy the games. New England, Jacksonville, 4:25 Sunday. I'm sure everyone will be tuned in. And decent primetime games with Giants, Dallas, and Seahawks, Bears. We will see you next week right here on the MMQB Gambling Podcast.